Hello, starting today with Saturn through houses, and I'm going to just do this generic video. The first one will be all about what is Saturn really all about. So Saturn is one of the most important planets in Vedic astrology, in the sense that it deals at our karma. So wherever Saturn is, it's basically where we're paying our karma to the world in our natal chart. Obviously, do always bear in mind that despite the fact that you're born with a certain placements, but actually every dashas are planetary periods which are very unique to Vedic astrology. Your chart changes, even though the underlying thing is your D1 or your natal chart, but really is on top of it during those years that that particular planet is ruling your life. You're doing more, you can read your chart from there, so this could change according to that. But this, obviously we know that the natal chart is literally the flavor of what we are. But I'm sure we all see that we definitely change every year when we are younger, and every decade or so we change dramatically as well as we work through our karmas. And some karmas, we work through and basically it's done, so it doesn't mean that we're going to be repeating those issues again and again. This is one of the most important things as well to know, is that for Saturn is very strong in the 7th house, because it's planet of community, other people, marriage, commitment. Therefore, if you have a difficult issues, difficult Saturn in your chart, it's really good to work on. I mean, if you have got a strong Venus, then that's fine. And also, if you've got strong Jupiter, that's very good too. But Venus and Saturn, really, they rule all the most important houses in the chart, which is 2nd house and 7th house of Venus, and 10th and 11th house of the natural zodiac are ruled by Saturn. So Saturn for us is the planet, we always look at it from Aries ascendant. It rules 10th house of career, karma and status, and 11th house, which is house of gains, and house of elder sibling. So it's a wealth and work. For Venus is 2nd house of family, savings, values, self-love, and 7th house of relationships and working with the others. So when they get together, this is how relationships are built, basically, because if you've got a good Venus and good Saturn, you really work at it. And so if you're finding that in your chart, your Saturn is very strong and it holds you back, or it's very weak, when it's very weak, like a debilitated Saturn, it's really, particularly in the 1st or 7th house, it can be quite difficult, because the person only ever sees the lack. They can give up on things before even start it. Therefore, it's quite good to work on Saturn. Saturn is literally hard work, putting your back into it and getting results. And the moment you do it with Saturn never ever denies you anything, but it wants you to deliver, and it wants you to be consistent and persistent. So let's go through some of the things to do with Saturn. Saturn is monotony. It's routine. Responsibility is our duty, commitment, fear, worry, seriousness, actually having lack, feeling the lack for anything. Maturity, reliability is humanitarian. It's unhappiness, discipline. It likes fairness, really, in everything. Wherever it sits in our chart, that part of our life, we're always very hard on ourselves. And it's rules it's dry and it's stressful. It rules kind of laws of the land. Sometimes even the unspoken laws will be to do with Saturn. It's like planet of humbleness and integrity, really. It's rules and regulations. It's respected, respect and respecting others, basically. It's always seeing what is not done. So you could have a list, and person who's got a good Venus, they think, okay, I had 10 things on my list. I did 2. Excellent. I now deserve a cup of tea. And they go and treat themselves, and there's no guilt attached. Well, it's very different for Saturn. Saturn is always guilt-driven. So therefore, it's like, even if they did 2 jobs and they were massively busy and there were big jobs to do in a day, they is still hard on themselves that they didn't do the other 8. So their view of life is very much like glass half empty. But they are loyal, hardworking. As I said, they love a routine. They like everything to be just so. Steadfast. They that term, talk the talk, walk the walk. They probably even don't even talk, but they certainly walk the walk, because they're not really having Saturn on your first house. It kind of limits everything. It can, wherever it's sitting, it kind of contracts that. It also rules elderly people, sick or disabled people. It's longevity. It's also death, delays, isolation, community, and above everything else is service. So these are all the indications of Saturn. So what we do now, we'll go through and do it through the houses. Saturn is friendly with Venus, very good friends with Venus, and also with Mercury. And it also does pretty well with Ketu, but it's definitely not friendly with the Sun or the Moon, or even Mars, although Mars is neutral with Saturn. And Rahu as well. Rahu, Saturn are not good together either. So this is how you can see. So you can see that Saturn is going to do really well in own sign, rules Capricorn, and rules Motricona sign, which is like the head office sign. It's very strong. Is in the 11th house of the natural zodiac, which is house of kind of groups, networks, likes to be with other people and actually contributing to everything. And it's exalted in Libra and debilitated in Mars. Exalted in the sign of other people, marriage, committing, working with other people, and diplomacy. But sign of Aries, which is all about me, myself, and I, is not happy there, because obviously it's a sign of me being singular, and also sign of Mars, which is an enemy to it considers Mars as an enemy. And so we just want to kind of like, this is one of those things that when you have a weak Saturn in your chart, you really it's very hard to get a grip of life, and things for people will be seriously delayed, and people, like mothers and fathers, could start worrying about the child because they just feel as though they are not really grasping things in life and solidifying anything. And also it can make the child very worryful as well. So I find that when Saturn is in your first house, in your 7th house, it's your Atmakarka, or is sitting with your ascendant lord, the child, everything for the child will be delayed. They'll be more stressed than normal. They'll be very dutiful. They always worry. They have this fear. So as a mother, it's very important to just like have compassion for them, because these children are real humanitarian. If they are really looked after and nurtured, so they can actually there's that trust thing going on, then you do well and they do well too. And so don't literally, be aware that they are not sometimes, it could be that, I'm not saying this every person, it depends on the chart, but don't they feel the pain of anything, because obviously they feel as though if they didn't do very well in a test, or they didn't do a job to the way their parents wanted to, they carry this terrible guilt, and they feel as though they let you and the family down, so they already suffer with a lot of guilt anyway. So it's really good when we are kind of, even with, if you have a partner who has or children, siblings, friends and everything else, we just got to realize that's where they're coming from. It's really, really important. So anyway, let's talk about the Saturn through signs, through houses. Thank you. Saturn has special aspects. It's obviously where it's sitting. It always, like all other planet aspects, 7 houses away. It also has special aspects, which is 3rd house and 10 houses away. The house that it's actually 3 houses away, but you always count so if it was in the 1st house, so you count 1st, 2nd, 3rd. So 3rd house will be where you'll be putting the effort in. So 3rd house is away from where it's sitting, and then 10 houses away from it, which is where you're paying karma to the world for from Saturn's viewpoint. So it's not necessarily for some people who've got Saturn in the 5th house, is 10 houses from that. It's not going to be necessarily your work one, but nonetheless though, it's something that you're paying karma on the world too. Okay, let's make a start on this. Saturn in the 12th house. This is obviously a Dushtana house, and Saturn is also the Karaka of 12th house. So from there, it's going to be aspecting 2nd house, 6th house, and 9th house. Right, let's begin. So obviously, 12th house is it's about other entities from other worlds, at-worlders we'll call them, because the other word I can't say on YouTube at the moment. It's also losses, expenses, foreign lands, hospitalization, isolations, endings, loss of energy, loss of money, sleep, quality of sleep, bed pleasures, or lack of it because of Saturn, spirituality, connecting with source, it's intuition, meditation, regeneration through rest, imprisonment, secret enemies, secret affairs, and all forms of addictions fall into this. So this is obviously a house of charity too. So this person could, obviously depending on what the house actually Saturn rules for you, but nonetheless, though, being in the 12th house, there is lack of connection with the houses that Saturn rules for you. It's a person who could be also, depending on whether or not it's your 1st house or whatever, but there could be addictions, there could also be a sense of spending money and giving to charity, and that actually creates issues for yourself and for your own money. And there is also, from there is going to be aspecting the 2nd house. So no sooner you get money, there's going to be an expense, another bill comes in, and it can make you stutter or stammer, and self-expressing yourself will come a bit later in life. It could also be, because there's a malefic aspect in the 2nd house, consumption of bad foods, bad words, and alcoholic beverage, that kind of, or overdoing it too. So again, becomes under addictions. It can also show that the person has, because 2nd house of values, they have to really learning to love themselves, and self-value will come later in life. With how you have to go through certain it's almost like when they say charity begins at home, they don't realize they have to invest in themselves first before they can then invest in other people, because they're so charitable they can sometimes not have any bills, and they get debts and issues like that before this kicks in. Obviously, this all depends on what Saturn is as a family, as a planet for you. It's also the 2nd house it just means that the family is quite strict, quite cold, quite conservative, cold family. They're quite frugal with money, lack of money. It's also aspecting the sixth house, so the jobs that they do could be like to do with governmental jobs, social services, hospitalization, hospitals, service jobs. Then also things like scientists, teachers, laboratory workers, healers, nutritionists, that kind of thing. And also aspects the ninth house from there too, which is like, so the house of luck and happiness, ninth house, can get delayed. So, and also father can be quite conservative, quite strict. Or the father could be like missing, like, or be brought up by a stepdad. And they're always questioning like the religion that they're born into, the belief system they're brought into. So they could can be conflicts with that too. So let's have a look at the ascendants. Okay, just going to look at the ascendants now for the Saturn in 12th house. So let's share the screen. Okay, for Aries ascendant, this is 10th and 11th house ruler. When it goes into the 12th house, you know that the job could be in faraway lands. They could be working for a charity, in a hospital, in a laboratory, in a prison, or they could be working in hospices. Or it could even be like, if it is excuse me, to do with the third house, or some form of travel house. It could be that, because it's also connected to the ninth house, it could be that they are actually on cruise ships, that form of job. Their gains, as they gain from the work, they could actually then go and spend it. They like spending money. And their friends can create losses. They can have secret enemies amongst their friends, or the elder sibling. There could be some issues there. And obviously, it's also aspecting the ninth house. There could be some issues, debts, and all of that to do with higher education. Or it's going to be like the father could be argumentative towards them, quite strict. It's obviously aspecting the second house, the natural zodiac, which is Taurus for your second house. And what happens is it's going to restrict, as I said earlier, the fruits of the second house, being able to save and stuff like that. A family can be quite strict, quite traditional family. It is also the 11th house ruler aspect in the second house. So after they tackle all the expenses and stop spending money, and be much more aware of their expenses, and stop changing jobs and things, they can actually have a really good amount of money built up, because being in the 12th house is definitely not going to make it any difficult. And also 10th and 11th house ruler, these houses are both Upachaya houses. With time, they learn how to self-value, create a nice family for themselves, start saving money, that kind of thing. They're extremely service oriented, so they could work as a scientist, as the jobs that they do, healing, doing practical things for the society, social work. Teachers and professors. They could also work in litigation, helping people with that, advising people. And their education can definitely give them some level of debt, or their father, could create debts for them, or obstacles, be enemies. But with time, things will definitely improve. Saturn from there, obviously, is aspecting and making those houses slow down, but in time things will be much improved. And it is also the 10th house ruler aspect in the 9th house, so this will be like working abroad and working with foreign people, speaking foreign languages, teaching foreign languages, that kind of thing abroad, but being service to others. For Taurus ascendant, I don't know why I said that. For Taurus ascendant, this is going to be the 9th and 10th house ruler in the 12th house. So it's going to be debilitated Saturn in the 12th house. This is also going to going to be quite difficult because it's the Yoga Karaka planet, most important planet for them, being in the 12th house. It doesn't kind of break any of the, because from those aspects, the 9th house, so they could be like a theology teacher, work for the government, work for their policymakers, things like that, foreign, there could be an ambassador or something like that. But there are going to be like difficulties going abroad. It can create debts. They could suffer from like addiction issues because they're overworking, overdoing things, and there's a lot of expectation from dad. That could be the issue too. But they really enjoy their work, the service they offer to the community. So in terms of work and that kind of thing, it's going to be amazing. They probably could be like working in litigation or education. They could also be like work with healers and in the in kind of like nutrition advice, that kind of thing. But they could be really good educators. Saturn also obviously protecting the 9th house, so they could have a very strict father, a very successful father, and also aspect in the 2nd house, which is going to be Gemini. So this is house of natural speech, so they could have speech issues because now it's a debilitated Saturn aspect in the 2nd house. But it's also 9th house ruler aspect in the 2nd house. So with time, things will improve. It's a little bit of a weak done yoga. But yeah, in time, things, they will tackle their debts and their enemies and their issues with sleep and addiction issues and things like that. And everything will be absolutely fine. Then for next ascendant, Gemini ascendant, this is going to be Saturn. In the 12th house, Saturn will be in Taurus. So this is like 8th and 9th house ruler in the 12th house. It does create like a Viparit Raj yoga, so through losses and addictions, lots of difficulties and obstacles and expenses, etc. They could even become like, impact like their dad also. But through a lot of difficulties, they become triumphant. And this is not going to take anything away from the 9th house ruler. It's in friendly sign, and that's going to be aspect in their 6th house. So their job could be quite secretive job. They could be working. They could actually be very good mediators, particularly if it's in Anuradha. If it's like middle of the sign of Taurus, will be aspecting fully on Anuradha. So they could be very good at that. They could have a secret job. Secret kind of what do you call them? They could be, their dad could be a spy or surveillance, that kind of job. They could also do like research in the background for the hospital in labs, working with poisons, that kind of thing, which and it's also from those aspect in Cancer. Again, Cancer could have dealings with poisons and foods, that kind of thing. But anyway, so they that the family is they could be like quite an emotional, very up and down family, but they're just quite nurturing all the same though. And they and also from this aspect in the 9th house. So the 9th house is Aquarius, so all the education, learning, belief system, religion, father, all of those kind of things will be amazing for them. They could and it's obviously going to give them luck and all of that stuff. With time, this is going to get quite good, but generally speaking, at the beginning of time, there's going to be like difficulties there. It is also 9th house ruler aspect in the 2nd house, so that the luck in money and savings and creating their own family, it's absolutely doable. And then for Cancer ascendant, this is going to be Saturn in the 12th house, will be Saturn in which is 7th and 8th house ruler in Gemini, friendly sign again. And this is going to be a Saturn that's like the partner, having issues with relationships and maybe a divorce or something. kind of learn how to deal with things to do with relationships. They could marry somebody foreign, or if they have had some form of addiction or something, they could meet them at the these charitable events where they bring people together so they can talk about their issues and things like that. And they could meet them something like that. They could meet partner through work too, because the aspect in the 6th house. But it's it could definitely be because 8th house ruler now in the 12th house aspect, and there are going to be some difficulties, some losses, some obstacles, enemies to overcome, maybe even a divorce, that form of thing. It is also aspect in the from there, it's aspect in the 9th house, so that there could be issues with that. Dad could have addiction issues as well, because the 12th house of natural zodiac is now the 9th house. They could have gone abroad for their higher education too, and or even settle in foreign lands, because the 9th house is the 12th house. But generally speaking, they could be they could definitely be in education. Also could be in kind of spas, working that, catering, service jobs like that. And obviously aspect in the 2nd house, so family could be quite high status family, and they could feel as though they're not good enough, and they really try very hard at making things live up to their family standards, and that could give them, make them ill, just trying to be as good as everybody else. But with time, this does get better. Saturn, just generally speaking, we have to go through some difficulties and work those karmic things out. For Leo ascendant, this is going to be Saturn in the 12th house. This is now 6th and 7th house ruler in the 12th house. From the 12th house, Cancer is going to be aspect in the 6th house. So that they're going to have quite a high status government job, so social services, civil servant jobs, governmental, all that kind of thing, education, anything to do with government. And it could also, obviously now Saturn is in the 12th house, so not great for them, being they could have addiction issues, things like that. And Saturn in the 12th house make the person quite so they could be the work, they could worry about work. They could work in a hospital because they'll have this nurturing thing. Their partner could be working for in the hospital, prison system, something like that. But there could also be a divorce, because it's 7th house ruler in the 6th house. There could definitely be litigations there. From there, obviously, it's aspect in the 9th house. So, the 9th house is where Saturn is debilitated. So there could be some issues with dads, issues questioning things to do with religion. Education could suffer, higher education. So they could probably gain from university of life more sometimes. But generally speaking, this is also like a family. The family could be very critical, very... not really in the cuddly and loving that sort of family, and so they have to put an effort into making their own family very bigger picture rather than smaller picture, that kind of thing. But protects the work, and they'll be very successful, high achievers at work. And for Virgo ascendant, this is now Saturn in the 12th house. Saturn will be in Leo, which is quite difficult this now. So this is going to be 5th and 6th house ruler in the 12th house. So they could be teaching young sort of delinquent teenagers. They could be working in education system, teaching abroad, and they, because also it's a fixed sign as well, and Saturn in it too. So it's not, they feel as though they have to deal with a lot of ego, a lot of issues with people who are just like high status, and they want to show, oh yeah, I'm the boss, you do as you're told, kind of thing at work. And this is going to make them feel really quite agitated. But nonetheless though, they put a lot of effort into their family. From there, their own family could be really nice, because Saturn is exalted there, so they could have really nice family. They could they could earn money quite well, and just the family will help them overcome any issues that they have with addictions and things. From there, obviously, is aspecting the sixth house, Aquarius, protecting the sixth house. Having children can create create losses, or they could also adopt children as well. They could be foster parents. And obviously the ninth house is being aspected as well, which is Taurus. So the father could be quite successful, and they probably enjoy the traditional family things, family religion, family celebrations of different fiestas and things like that. For Libra ascendant, this is going to be Saturn, which is like Yoga Karaka planet. When it's in the 12th house, Saturn will be in Virgo. So this is obviously because it's a Yoga Karaka planet. It's difficult because it's in the 12th house. However, 12th house doesn't actually destroy any of their yogas, and it's in friendly sign. But anyway, it is like there could be like some issues with like not keeping their car in good order, looking after their mum could be poorly hospitalized, or their children the same. Education of children could create some debts and things like that. But generally speaking, this is also the sign that gives you a lot of intellect and practicality, and they can solve issues through there. They could definitely be working in hospitals, being a nurse, look after children, look after like mums, maternity place, something like that. Scientists, but definitely hard work and working this could be definitely a medic of that kind. Their father could have been like a scientist as well. So their mum could be a nurse. The whole family could be in that kind of health and healing scientific background. Or it could also be that they do help with litigation work, help people who have had issues with, advise people, because fifth house ruler too. Advise women, advise people who are pregnant, that kind of thing. Midwifery, health advisors, what they call them, health. I don't know the name of it, but that kind of thing could be a theme as well. But it'll be service-oriented person, and they also, because it's the fourth house ruler aspect in the ninth house, really protects, gives good Raj Yoga there too. Then for Scorpio ascendant, this is going to be Saturn is third and fourth house ruler. When it goes into 12th house, Saturn will be exalted. So teaching, they can have a house abroad. They're friends, they could have lots of foreign friends. They could speak foreign languages, and they could be teaching. This is going to be an exalted Saturn now, aspect in the sixth house, aspect in the second house, and aspect in sitting in the 12th house. So that they kind of enjoy spending money, enjoy connecting to the above. There's travel, teachings, work, and that kind of thing, being of service, being a teacher, being in litigation, that kind of thing, and father's status and all of that. It just gives them a lot of joy. The family, it's an exalted Saturn aspect in the second house. Really enjoy learning foreign languages, speaking with foreign people, travel. They could be in travel industry, whatever they do in terms of like if they're working in hospitals with prisoners, in ashrams, in meditating, all of that kind of stuff. They enjoy it. There's a lot of being of service and being charitable is really, really important to them. So the more efforts they put into their work, into learning skills and teaching others, the better they feel about everything. So yeah, this is quite nice. They could be like a foreign diplomat, foreign working embassy or something like that too. And then for Sagittarius ascendant, this is going to be like second and third house ruler. When it goes in the 12th house, with Saturn in, it's going to be in in Scorpio. So this Saturn is going to be a second house ruler. So these people just love spending money. They have to be very careful because they could have addictions, because Saturn is not in a good condition here. It's enemy sign. They could definitely have a secret job, something, they could work with people who have had accidents and things, accident emergency, that type of thing, and highly skillful people. And so the Saturn from there is obviously going to be aspect in their ninth house, which is going to be for Sagittarius, going to be Leo. So that's going to be a bit difficult. They probably find their dad makes them feel quite, not good enough, that kind of thing. Dad is probably a really quite important, influential person, and there's that kind of lack going on, lack of maybe relationship. Education can give them, can be stressful for them, higher education, and the belief system of the family. But anyway, they just probably feel a little bit lost with the family. But at the end of the day, this Saturn is going to be aspect in the second house. So once they do the Saturn stuff, they can start saving money. They could have really self-value and start saving money and make better choices. It's they're just going to have to put effort into it, really. And obviously from there, Saturn is aspect in the sixth house, Taurus. So they could be in service jobs to do. This could be nursing, hospitality. It could be travel. So they could be working on, cruise liners, or go to, work abroad. But yeah, the sixth house thing is going to be good. They can just see that there's an enjoyment in helping others, being of service to others. So, and it gets better with time, because obviously it's upachaya, the aspect on the sixth house, the work, the more they give to people, the better it feels. Then for Capricorn ascendant. So for Capricorn ascendant, this is Saturn ruling first and second house. When it goes in the 12th house, is Saturn in Sagittarius. So this is neutral sign. Saturn is obviously no sooner they save money, there's an expense, and they could also have issues with drinking and eating and self-value, that kind of thing that holds them back to begin with. But obviously, they, with time, things get better, because Saturn is also aspecting the second house and protecting it. Saturn from there is going to be aspecting the sixth house, which is going to be Gemini. It's going to be aspecting also the ninth house, which is Virgo. So you can see that this person's dad could be in work for government, work as a healer, as a scientist, travel industry, that kind of thing. But although the dad is quite critical and the education could bring debts and everything else for them, but nonetheless, though, they can be quite, with time this gets better and the second house gets elevated. It's also second house ruler aspect in, and first house ruler aspect in the ninth house creates Raj and Dhan yoga. So long term it will be good. And then for Aquarius ascendant, 12th and first house ruler Saturn in the 12th house Saturn will be in own sign in Capricorn. So this is going to be foreign lands, and this is going to be a Saturn that the work and luck and all of that happens to get better when they travel abroad, because it protects the 12th house, and this is a first house ruler aspect in the 9th house. So it's nice Rajdhan yogas going on there. And so this is literally, they probably feel a bit lost at the beginning of life, feel as though they don't belong. However, once they kind of Saturn starts giving and everything, things will much improve for them. They could be great teachers, they could teach abroad, they could be of service to the others. It's going to be amazing in that sense. And with time, the more they value themselves, the better they can save money. That actually their income goes up with that too, brings the luck house in. And obviously from there is aspect in the 6th house, which is Cancer. So they could also do service to others, being nurturing and everything. That could be a type of work that they do, looking after other people. They, again, could be travel. So now let's go to Pisces. For Pisces ascendant, having Saturn in the 12th house, Saturn will be in own sign, which is Aquarius. So this is 11th and 12th house ruler in the 12th house. So they gain and they spend. They love spending money. And it's, you know, it's obviously, you know, protecting the 12th house is aspecting the second house of the family. There could be some issues with family in the sense that, and actually saving money will be difficult. They find it really difficult valuing themselves. That could give them the addictions. Once they learn to value themselves, they have to really work at it though. They have to get the right information, third house, get the right skills, you know, apply themselves a lot to actually gain that confidence in themselves, create better relationship with their own family, with themselves, make better choices, and that will really activate that house. The 6th house is, you know, that the job that they're going to do is going to be for governmental jobs, policymakers, that kind of thing. And also they're hard workers, really hard workers from, you know, just purely because the situation. They can also teach abroad, work abroad, and it's aspect in the 9th house as well, which is in Scorpio. So there's something secret about that. That could be, you know, they could not know their dad, and that's probably some of the reason why they have to work on those kind of things. Or they question everything to do with the religion that they're born into, father's belief system. They could be a bit rebellious towards that. But with time, this gets better as well. That's it, guys. I'll see you next time. Thank you.